If you want to retire back in Zimbabwe or if you want to relocate, there are a few things that if you do them or you stop doing them, they can make relocation easier. In this video, we're going to be talking about the things that will stop you from doing that relocation or that retirement plan, and also the solutions to those problems. I'm going to give myself as an example here. So it was 2018. I started a company with my business partner. Within 6 months, the company was acquired by a bigger company. And this was exciting for me because at that point I felt like, wow, little Augustine from Zimbabwe is now part of this huge company. And this company at the time was worth, close to $1 million at that time. I was really excited. So I also got a post as a director in the business. And the first thing that came to my mind was, I've made it. I'm a director. I need to look like a director. So what did I do? I went on and got a car on finance. And this car was my dream car, which was the Jaguar XF. I justified the costs of the finance by saying, look, I have to look the part when I go to these meetings with fellow directors. So anyway, I purchased the car. It came to about £350 per month. And cash price, the car was going for $12,000, and it was also a bit old. I think it was 3 or 4 years old at the time. It wasn't brand new, but still, because it was a decent car, I was required to pay about $350 per month. So at the time, I know you could be saying, but it doesn't make sense to buy a car at $350 for the next 5 years, which will bring it a total of $21,000. So logically speaking, and I want to mention this word, logically speaking, it doesn't make sense that a car costs $12,000 cash, and then you go on to buy that car, which is going to cost you $21,000 5 years later, knowing that even if you try to sell that car, it hasn't appreciated in value. It actually depreciated. Logically speaking, it doesn't make any sense. And sometimes we do these dumb decisions because we're emotional, and then we try and justify it using logic. In my case, I was saying I'm a director. I need to look the part no matter what it costs. But for me, that was a very bad move. Looking back, 2018, if I was to put £350 on the side every month, in a year, we're talking about enough money for me in 2019 to buy myself a piece of land, even in the rural areas. It may be a suburb deal. Or with at $350 a month, can you imagine if I were to buy 350 chicks every single month? By now, how much I'll be making? This was a major drawback in my finances because about 6 months into this contract, I started having problems with the car. And at that point, the car was out of warranty. I started getting gearbox issues. I started getting issues with the injectors. And when I went to Jaguar to assess the problem, I was very surprised that the cost to fix it was crazy. I remember at the time they wanted close to £4,000 to fix the injectors and all the issues the car had. So at that point, I thought to myself, what's the pleasure in driving this car if it's going to give me so many problems? And at home, I was always frustrated because for me, when my money is short and I'm not meeting, my targets, my goals, my bills, or anything to do with money, I get super agitated. And for me, it was creating a lot of tension in the family. It was just not very good. So I really sat down and I decided, you know what? Let me take the car back, because they had a clause which says after 2 years, I can return the car as long as it's in good condition, no questions asked, no issues. You just return the car, and whatever you've paid for those 2 years pretty much goes towards the car, and they can sell on the car. Believe it or not, I took the car and I gave it back. I didn't even care about how much money I lost. I gave it back. And since 2020, I think it was 2020 then, I pretty much started using public transport. Yes, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I said to myself, you know what? I'm done with this. I started using public transport. And that picture that I had in my head that I was going to use the car for meetings and all of that, it turns out I wasn't really going to a lot of meetings anyway. And it didn't even care what car, because the cars are parked in the car park. Who cares? No one sees your car. But it's one of those things which we are ingrained with in our head, that we need to look the part. So you'll find that there's a lot of people that look like $1 million, but they're not worth anything. One of the questions that you ask people that look rich, which they don't like to hear, is if you ask them about the net worth. Anyone who looks rich, anyone who looks like they are very, very wealthy, ask them about the net worth. And a simple way to calculate net worth is to add all your assets. Assets are all the things that what? Bring you money, or things that are with value, minus all the monies that you owe, which are your liabilities, your loans, and all that kind of stuff. So including a mortgage. So you'll find that someone will be boasting saying, look, I have a house worth 1 million. Okay, that's fine. It's only your house when it's fully paid. So if you want to calculate net worth, that will go into the debt, because it's still a debt to the bank, right? So if anyone has a positive net worth, then you know they're doing something right. But I don't want to spark a debate about mortgages. I know some of you have strong feelings about mortgages and so on and so forth, which is fine. I mean, I've said time and time again that a mortgage can also work in your favor if you do it the right way. But majority of people don't. So let's not spark a debate in mortgages. But anyway, so what you're going to find is there are a lot of stupid things that we spend money on, or at least in my case, I was spending money on. Initially, I was getting an iPhone on contract, which I was paying for, but at the time the iPhone didn't have like decent cameras and so on for me to justify buying an iPhone for video production. But I had an iPhone which I was paying 50, 60, 70 pounds per month for the next 2 years. It may seem like it's not a lot of money, and it may seem like you need that phone. You don't, because 70 pounds a month, how many bricks can you buy every month? Do you know that if you abstained from getting an iPhone, a brand new one, and you commit yourself to buying 1,000 bricks or 2,000 bricks every single month back in Zimbabwe, you are in a massive step forward. If you stop yourself from purchasing a car on finance, do you know how many bricks you can buy every month? Or even just buying things you know you're going to use towards your building on your whatever land that you want to retire on. It's a lot of money. Now, I don't even want to go into a lot of detail. How much money do people waste on clubbing, drinking, smoking? It's a lot of money. So what happens now is you have a guy who doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't have a car on finance, doesn't have any mortgages, doesn't have a brand new iPhone every single year. You ask yourself, how are they progressing? So immediately, because we are in automatic mode of spending, Zimbabweans we are very good spenders, you know. We like looking smart, we like looking rich. You end up thinking that spending is normal. So you look at the guy who's saving, doing his thing quietly. And you know, unfortunately, those people who are trying to save money and hustle, they're looked down upon. You're seen as you're backward, you know, you're not moving with the times. But you'll be very surprised that person now, at the end of 3, 4, 5 years, they'll tell you that, hey, you know what? I've got a project there in Zimbabwe on the ground, making me 2,000 a month, 3,000 a month. And then you get shocked last minute. How the hell did they do it? They must have connections in the government. That's the automatic thing, because you can't work out how money works and how saving and investing and how important it is. You can't work it out. So automatically you start going into, how do they make it? They must have connections in the government. They must be using magic. They might be, something is up. It's not straightforward money. That's where majority of people automatically go into. So the question now is, why is there a big rise in people wanting to relocate? If I go back to when I showcased my relocation story, when Wadumaya came to Zimbabwe, I did not see a lot of people talking about relocation at the time. And I would like to think, I may be wrong, but I would like to think I was one of those pioneers of relocating back to Zimbabwe and showing my story and even showing my failures. So a lot of Zimbabweans, and I want you to understand this, a lot of Zimbabweans are gatekeepers. When they see there's something that's making money, they don't say it. They're very, very quiet. So automatically you think, you know what? Everything is all good. There's no urgency, but people are doing what they're doing, secretly. I know right now in Zimbabwe, there's a lot of farmers who are making a lot of money in all these areas, whether it's horticulture, whether it's animal husbandry and so on. They're making a lot of money, but they're quiet. You don't see them splashing money. You don't see them showing off. You don't see them doing any of those. They're just quiet, making their money. building wealth, but they don't speak too much. They don't talk too much, because they know that amongst our Zimbabwean community, we also copy each other. I mean, look at the content right now about relocating to Zimbabwe, how beautiful Zimbabwe is, and so on. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It is a good thing, because for me, I actually like that, because it's awakening people who are constantly being told that Zimbabwe is bad. I love that. And I like the fact that there's a lot of content creators now on that bandwagon. It's brilliant, because oftentimes when we look back home, we look at our country as if it's a country which is, about to break apart, which is not true. And this brings me to the next part, which is the quickest way not to make a retirement plan to Zimbabwe is to listen to the negativity of Zimbabwe. A lot of people say a lot of negative things about the country. The governance, they talk about how bad everything is. They don't focus on the good. And those people are dangerous, because they do not highlight the positives of the country. So it makes you feel like, what's the point of going back home if things are so bad? I want to give you an example of something that happened just recently. 2 weeks ago, my young brother, he was on a motorbike, and he was hit by a combi, and he broke his bone, the thigh bone, the bone on the thigh. It broke. So he was taken straight to Regenerative hospital. So over there, they were treating him. They did some x-rays. Of course, they needed money. We were buying our own medicines. We were buying our own painkillers and so on. But the nurses were there, to take care of him. So the experience I got from that was, okay, yes, there may not be things in the hospital where you can just be, attended to, without any issues. But what I realized is, fine, you need to have money. The nurses, the doctors, they're all there. So anyway, once the operation was done, the x-ray was done, he was told he needed to be operated, and they had to buy a steel plate. For some of you doctors here or nurses here, you may know in detail what this is about. But anyway, it's a steel plate they had to put in to make sure that the bone that had broken, in some way, that was the way to repair it. Right, with that steel plate inside his leg. Immediately, I said to myself, "Oh my goodness, Regenerative hospital, a steel plate, they're not going to be able to do it." But anyway, as I'm texting back and forth, with the family back home, yes, they wanted 350 for that. They also needed another 300 for the theater. That was already 650. And then the other medicines, we're getting up to about 700 now. For me, at that point, I was like, okay, 700 is a lot of money for an average person. How are they going to do? Are they going to do a good job? Surprisingly, yesterday, I got a call to say, well, the operation was successful, and he now just needs to recover. We just need now money for the crutches. So I sat down and I started thinking to myself, well, this is happening at Regenerative hospital. Yes, it's costing a lot of money, but you are able to get professional help. Now, if you're one of those people who have the money to be on a higher end medical aid, or you have the money for a service where if something went wrong, the ambulance will come and pick you up. I think there's MAS and those services. You also have CMAS and all those things. And you fell sick. Does that mean that you won't get any help in Zimbabwe? I am one of those people now who believe that you will get help, and you can get help in Zimbabwe, but you also need to make sure you have enough money. So yes, people talk about the healthcare is not there and whatever it is. I can give you another example of what happened personally. I think a few years ago, is it a few years ago? Yes, a few years ago now, my young brother's kids passed on, and the two that survived were in intensive care at Harare Hospital. And they did a fantastic job, to be honest. The nurses, they did a very good job. They were very polite. I even spoke to the doctors. They were really, really polite. Yes, of course, you have to spend a bit of money, but they got the care that they needed, and everything was all good. But I'm saying, if you're one of those people who are holding back because the healthcare is bad, I think the healthcare is there. There are professional institutions there, but you've got to be able to afford them. You got to be able to afford them. So what happens now in this situation is a lot of people who feel like, I can't go to Zimbabwe, they fall into this trap of talking about politics. And what they are getting, the information they are getting is not from politicians. People are just debating and talking about how bad things are and how good things can be improved. There's a group that I was in, which every day it became sort of like a national anthem of people just complaining. You know what, the country could be doing better here, it could be doing better there, it could be doing better here. And every single time I heard that, I responded and said, okay, so what are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? You're talking about it every single day. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. Okay. Are you even there on the ground to vote? No. Are you willing to go on the streets to protest? No. So you're just making noise. So one thing that I learned very early on in life is don't stress about things you can't change. Don't stress about things you can't change because you just feel helpless anyway. So if you're one of those people that wants to retire back home, you need to stay away from this politics stuff. Not because you don't want change, but because you can't single-handedly do anything about it. And actually, let me just even take this a step further. A lot of these people that are into this politics stuff, you'll find that if the government changes and you don't have any assets, you don't have any business, you don't have any good job, nothing. If the government changes, you are going to be in the same place like you were yesterday because there's nothing that the government is going to do for you personally. No one is going to come to you and say, here's $1,000 you voted for me. No. And that's the reality. But people don't want to hear this. People don't want to hear it. Now, if I speak the way I'm speaking now, you find out that people will say, you support this party or that party. You know, us here in the diaspora, we've been here for a very long time. You'll find that there'll be the Democrats, there'll be the Republicans. They come in, they go. Ask yourself, have that increased your net worth? Because you're supporting Republicans or you're supporting Democrats, has that increased your net worth? Well, for some of you that have businesses or investments, yes, but for the most part, no. Here in the UK, when there's Labour and when there's Conservatives, has that changed your net worth in the UK? Absolutely not. So don't be dragged into things that will take away so much energy for you to move forward. It's a waste of time. It's absolutely a waste of time. So what can you do? You're in the diaspora, maybe you're like me, you're buying things on finance, you're buying all these mobile phones, you're looking good, you're looking $1 million, but your heart is in Zimbabwe and you want to retire in Zimbabwe. What can you do? Well, you have to make some very serious decisions here because you have to cut down on your money, on your outgoings. You really have to cut down. Yes, you're going to look like you're not going to fit in. Because majority of people, they're spenders. Majority of people, they don't care about what's going to happen tomorrow, even though tomorrow is coming. Right now, we're talking about retirement. People don't even care about retirement because they just want to just face stick their head into the sand and not even think about it. But it's coming. Retirement is coming. And we're getting older. So what can you do? Number one, cut down on your expenses. If you can return that car, return it. If you can travel to work without a car, use public transport. If you can downgrade to a very small car, downgrade. Save on fuel, save on insurance, save on everything. And put that money on the side. 2, if you're one of those people buying iPhones every year just to look cool, no, stop it. Stick to your old phone. Or even if you need to buy another one, buy two versions down, the older versions. You can still get your WhatsApp on there. Trust me. 3, add a side hustle to your salary. A salary alone is going to be very tricky. If you try to do all these double shifts and all these crazy shifts, you're just going to be taxed more. But if you create a side hustle, and there's so many ways. You know, my kids were home educated. We actually had a Zimbabwean lady who was teaching my children science. It was amazing. Zimbabwean lady, they'll connect on Zoom and she'll do her lessons. I think it was £40 an hour for the lessons. £40 an hour. And definitely that lady was making money on the sea. She was very professional. Everything was all good. She was very good at teaching. And that to me, that's where you're using your what? Your brain here in the diaspora. Side hustles, there can be so many of them. Some of you, they are in these wide Zimbabwean communities. Find something of value that you can provide for the Zimbabwean community and make money. Don't be afraid to sell. If you are afraid to sell, you'll never make money. You'll never be rich. Sell something. Whether it's a product or a service, sell something. Us Zimbabweans, we have a thing of pulling each other down, making each other feel like, look at him, he's selling this, therefore he's struggling. No, I even had one guy on in my comments. He said, stick to selling chickens, right? That was meant to be an insult for the guy. But in my head, I was like, okay, black person to black person, right? You are very good at insulting each other. Even when I had my chickens back home, when I did my video with Wadamaya, people were saying, those two chickens, now you want to call yourself someone who's doing something on the ground because you have two chickens. I laughed it off. But these are the kind of comments which people are saying in their hearts without even saying it, because that's just our nature as Zimbabweans. So that can really pull you down if you're someone who wants to move forward. So you have to ignore those people. And I know it's hard because you're a part of a community that is spending a lot. And I know it can be very difficult, but you have to ignore those voices. Absolutely ignore them. Because if you really look at it, yes, Ruwa Organic is selling chickens. And he's a poor guy. Focus on chickens. But if there's another race going into the country and they want to sell the same chickens, Ivan's, they're so happy to run to Ivan's to buy chickens. Because what? And that's the problem. What's wrong with anyone selling chickens? But you'll find that there are people there that will pull you down. What's wrong with selling sweet potatoes that you've grown on your piece of land? What's wrong with that? Look at that. That's the mentality. But those are the sort of people you don't want to be hanging around with. They will take away a lot of your energy that you need for you to move forward. There are so many things, reselling things on eBay. There's a lot of online things that you can also do to make, a side income. Or if you have trusted people there on the ground, start putting money on little projects there on the ground, which of course it has to be with trusted people, and start making side money. That is how you're going to make your relocation to Zimbabwe a reality. That's the only way. And what's even better is we have a platform called Kumusha Investments. If you know you don't have anyone reliable to do your projects on the ground or to do your investments on the ground, then you definitely need to be a part of this community. This community is a community of investors where there's going to be accountability. It's based on trust and it's based on transparency. So there's no information that will be held back from the investors, which is you. Everything will be very transparent. We are building this platform and we believe that this platform is going to be the ship that is going to make relocating or investing in Zimbabwe possible because of the true fundamental things that we believe in. So head over to that link. It's in the video description below, kumushainvestments.com. Join the waiting list. Very, very soon we're going to be selecting our committee, and then we're going to have our Zoom meeting where all the investors come in and ask questions and so on and so forth. It's going to be very exciting. You don't want to miss this, because if you miss this, you're going to regret it. And then you're just going to be kicking yourself over and over again saying, why didn't I join the group? Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I thought I'd share my stories or my encounters with you. So at least maybe you can learn a thing or two from them. Until next time, thanks for watching. I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.